Hello, hope everyone's doing well, and it is finally time for the Revelations of Dust rerun. So the Horny Nun and Co. are back. Get your free pulls, and yeah, so I'm just gonna go over the details of the event, just like since it's a light event, what that entails. I'll play the PV. It's one of those event PVs where it's mostly just Implacable's acquisition animation, which sucks, but is what it is. There's a little bit extra in there too. So, light rerun. What does that entail? The event only lasts a week. You are guaranteed to get Implacable after every 200 pulls, up to 4 times. That's just standard UR event stuff. So, just want to include it. We should get 44 free pull tickets from missions, login rewards, the event shop, and point accumulation. So, it's not a lot, but it's a good start. Hopefully you can get whoever you need if you missed out. I know I was kind of taking a break from the game at the time, so I got Implacable and happened to grab Argus at the same time, and then I dipped. So my knowledge with most of these characters is limited, I will admit. Get the event portrait frame, you can put in your secretary, so when your friends look at you and say, wow, look at this cool individual, you can have the one for this event, for what it looks like. I never got it, obviously, because I didn't really do the event. But for previously, you would have to get the ship girl and then maximum break them. So for Implacable, just have to get her. Now you just need to acquire the ship girl, so it's much easier to get all the points needed for that. Also, normal and hard mode stages get bonus points for your first daily clear. Normal mode gets a 5 times multiplier, and hard mode gets a 3 times multiplier, so makes things go a lot quicker. And I was making this slide, and I'm like, there is something I'm forgetting. Point accumulation is condensed, so you get the rewards a lot faster. You don't have to grind as much, which is nice, and it's a shorter event. So there we go, and enjoy the brief PV. So before we start with the talk about the ship girls, here are the skins. We have Hero, Scylla, Janice gets a dynamic, Implacable gets a dynamic, Marblehead gets a dynamic, Umikaze gets a skin, Royal Oak gets a skin, Argus gets a skin, and Prince Heinrich gets a skin. Well, they've already had them, but now they're available again for the week. And then once the event gets added to the War Archive, they'll be added permanently. So yes, some pretty cool ones. I like the Umikaze one, the Scylla one too. So, the centerpiece of this event, Implacable, late war Royal Navy character, carrier, not character, well, she's a character in game, carrier, armored flight deck, proven illustrious, and initially I wasn't a big fan of her just because I saw her texts and they've gotten worse since then, like Raffaio, but I was like, I don't want to read all this. This is way too much for a skill. We're getting to Yu-Gi-Oh card territory. But she is quite useful, and I have used her a whole lot since I was pointing out to me a certain ability she has. So, briefly, she gains effect stacks when ships in the fleet, or the first 3 battles of the fleet that she is not in, when those ships take damage, Implacable gains these stacks of these buffs. And then, when she has more stacks, and she launches her airstrike, she launches additional airstrike, which gets buffed based off of how many stacks she has. She's a very good slow, probably the best slow in the game, in my opinion. It gradually slows the enemies down, holds them at 0, and then gradually speeds them back up. Instead of being like a 30% debuff or a 60% debuff, it holds them in place, and then they slowly start moving again. It also picks out one enemy prioritizing humanoids to decrease their evasion, and this also works cross-fleet, tied into her stacks. It's pretty neat. And then she gives herself evasion accuracy, pretty standard, and buffs reload if dive bomber is equipped. And I'll get into why that's not just owed by default. And then she has a increased ability, various buffs for your Royal Navy ship girls. So first up, the whole dive bomber thing. What's going on with that? So for equipment, she's got pretty good efficiencies. 140 for fighters, Second slot is 130, and at max limit break, it can use dive bombers, fighters, or torpedo bombers. And slot 3 is also 130. So Implacable has a lot of uses. My primary use for her is as a slower for my carrier boss fleets, basically enabling Shinado and Hakuryu to have all their torpedo bombers hit. So all the torpedoes, they're going to be converging, actually hit the target. That's what I use Implacable for. I have been using Amagi CV a little bit more now, and just on more stationary targets. But for moving targets, and if you want to like pick someone out, like I know with the Washington, South Dakota Extreme Challenge mode, what I would do is I would use Implacable to kind of separate them out and hold them in place so I only attack one. Also use Aegir for that in there as well. But yes, very, very potent. And then also, because she can use double fighters, so first and second slot fighters, she is quite useful for Chapter 15 support fleet, just because her stats are very good. 444 aviation, really good. 334 anti-aircraft, very good. Heavy armor, so she's very useful for that as well. I'm starting to see her get put there more now that we have Amagi CV, and since Amagi CV can buff all torpedo damage for Sakura ships, and Implacable doesn't get that buff, so it's a little unfortunate in that regard. But yes, once I started using her, I thought she was very useful. And if you don't get her, don't worry. Formidable is in the metal shop, so the exchange, when you go into the build tab. And then Arc Royal is all over the place. So they both have slowing capabilities, and Arc Royal is still incredibly strong, even without her retrofit. So let's get in the nitty gritty of her skills. So while the ship is afloat, the fleet she is in starts the battle. And for the first 3 battles of sortie, fleet she is not in, so applies both times. Every time a ship in your fleet is hit, the fleet gains a stack of No Mercy. And this can stack up to 9 times. Now the second part is what she does with those No Mercy stacks. When she launches an airstrike, launch additional special airstrike, and expends all stacks of No Mercy. So she gets buffs based on how many stacks are expended. 3 or more increases damage dealt by 10% for 5 seconds. Nice. 6 or more negates detection gauge value gain from launching an airstrike. Not the greatest. I mean, helps with survivability. But yeah. And then at 9, she gains the ability to have a guaranteed critical damage from the special airstrike. Not the airstrike that triggered the special airstrike, just the special airstrike. And at 9, she gets all the buffs at the same time. And at level 6, she gets the increased damage as well as the negation of detection gauge increase. So yes, very nice, very strong there. And then her second skill and the primary use I have for her is when she launches an airstrike at level 10, it's 100% chance to lower speed of enemies to 0 for 2 seconds. Keep it at 0 for 2 seconds. So, sorry, lower it to 0 over 2 seconds, keep it at 0 for 2 seconds, and then gradually restore their speed to normal over 2 seconds. So 6 seconds of reduced speed to completely stationary. Very useful. Even if you're not using carriers as well, you're using Implacable with some battleships, she's holding them in place. So the battleships you can manually target and get that extra buff for manually targeting. So that's very nice. So yes, very, very useful. And then she prioritizes targeting one random enemy and with priority on humanoid enemies, and lowers their evasion by 20% for 6 seconds. So when you're fighting bosses, that's quite nice, especially for really dodgy bosses. And so she doesn't have the same cross-fleet barrage that all the other URs have. I thought she had an extra barrage. She just gets a slow effect. So on the first main gun volley or airstrike of the flagship of the fleet she's not in, expends all stacks with No Mercy, and for 2 seconds activates one of the following effects based off of how many No Mercy stacks are expended. Basically, it reduces speed to varying degrees. So 3 to 5 is 20% for 2 seconds, 6 to 8 is 60% for 2 seconds, and 9 is 100% for 2 seconds. So pretty good. Not too hard to actually get those buffs, because you're probably getting chipped for, you're taking a little bit of damage, but it's just getting hit. So, you know, it's not a damage threshold, just getting hit. And so on higher difficulty stuff, you're getting kind of chipped away out slowly. And lastly, her blue skill, she only has 1 blue skill and 2 reds, which kind of sucks. I feel like you could maybe switch the You Can't Escape, her second skill, to a yellow. That'd be nice. So her last skill, Who Will Answer Your Prayers, increases her own aviation accuracy by 10%, and if she's down or equipped, increases her reload by 10% as again. And while she's afloat, and your airspace control rating is higher than air denial, so you have some planes and carriers still alive, basically. Increases your Royal Navy Vanguard's ship's AA innovation by 15%, and decreases your Royal Navy main fleet aircraft damage taken by 6%. So staying alive. She is very good. So hopefully you see why I was kind of conflicted on recommending Rafayo when I knew she was coming out very soon. In fact, sooner than I thought, and then also later than I thought, because I thought she'd come out last week, when said she's coming out on the 20th. So yeah, Implacable, definitely worth picking up. I like her utility. Was not a big fan of her design at first, but she's grown on me. And yeah, so she also likes spicy ramen. That's what I learned from the comics. So there you go. Implacable. And next up, we have Royal Oak, the victim of U-47's attack on Scapa Flow. She is an older battleship, but she is a much more light and angelic design. When this event first came out, I felt like almost with Royal Oak and Implacable, it was supposed to be an Iris Libre event. That's what I was thinking it was supposed to be. But oh well. So Royal Oak, nothing too incredible. A bit improvement on Revenge, but nothing fantastic here. She got an interesting skill, but there's someone else who you can get from a shop that does the same thing, and I think a little bit better. So she buffs her own firepower and speed if a DD or CL is in the fleet. You know, if she has an escort, she can somehow go faster. She fires a special barrage when she takes damage. This is on a cooldown, so it's not just bang, 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 bang. And also it fires off on a timer, even if she hasn't taken damage. So you're still getting the barrage out. And she has a emergency heal for Royal Navy ships if they're about to be sunk. And then when her own HP is below 18%, she takes less damage and heals herself over time. And when she is above 18% HP, she deals more damage, and she absorbs damage from Royal Navy main fleet ships. So I do like the heal. I don't like the thresholds for it. That's scary low, and then she immediately goes, she can heal herself above the 18% and just start absorbing damage again, which is not great. She does reduce the damage she is absorbing. So with the Royal Oak, I'm looking at her, I'm thinking, we have South Dakota, who does virtually the same thing with her Invincible Shield or something, whatever it's called. So if you like her design and like her skin, worthwhile, I guess. But other than that, unless you really like her, I would say if you don't get her, you can skip on her. But if you're going for collection or you just like her design, then go for her. But what else I want to... Yeah, kind of cover it with their skills. I'll just go into the percentages for the healing and stuff. So Royal Navy ship in your fleet takes damage that might sink her. That would sink her. That ship recovers 3% of max HP and evades all attacks for 3 seconds. So keep them alive a little bit longer. And you can't stack with Juno, unfortunately, because Juno is not Royal Navy. And I don't think Royal Navy has an equivalent to Juno in terms of healing. I guess Neptune, kinda. But when her max HP falls below 18%, decrease ship's damage taken by 18%, and every 8 seconds recovers 30% of the ship's max HP. Now, it doesn't say when it expires, I'm assuming it doesn't go forever. And then does it just get her above that 18% to 21 and just stop? That would suck. I didn't get her, so I don't know how it works, unfortunately. If you do, let us know in the comments so that I can know and other people can know. Make them better informed. That's the goal of the channel is I don't have all the information. I'm not going to pretend to. That's why I want it to be a dialogue, a conversation. So that, you know, people can supplement what I don't know and I can help people out and I can help other people out. Nice big little helping. And then when her max HP is above 18%, increase ship's damage dealt by 18%. A lot of 18s here. And then she tanks 50% of the damage your Royal Navy main fleet ships would take while decreasing that damage by 30%. So Sodak has a better heal. Sodak gets firepower buff. I would rather just use Sodak instead of Royal Oak, I'll be honest with you. Sodak has a better skin. Yeah, so I'm going to say pass on the Royal Oak, unfortunately. Next up, we have the ship girl I regretted skipping on, and I wish I had actually gotten her. Scylla, one of the Dido class. So my thought when she first came out, the reason why I skipped her is I said, oh boy, here we go again. Dido number 4 with white hair. Because we have Dido, we have Sirius, we have Hermione, and then we got Scylla. I think we had Charybdis, or maybe Charybdis was later. So I was like, okay, she's gonna have a good AA, but I didn't look at her skills at the time, so that's on me. Turns out she has some utility. So stats wise, very good AA. Torpedo. She's basically a Royal Navy Sandy, if you want to think about that. One of the Atlantas. So just think of her that way. Nothing really out of the ordinary with her limit breaks or stuff. So she has a self buff for firepower and anti-air when she fires her main guns up to 6 stacks. At max stacks, she buffs the AA for Vanguard ships with a lower AA than herself, which is pretty cool. Very neat. I mean, she's got a very high AA stat anyway. So, barring the Atlantas and maybe her sisters, probably buffing everyone in the Vanguard, not in the main fleet. And she's a self buff to torpedo and evasion if there are other Royal Navy ships in your Vanguard, which who else could you run? Drake, run Drakey. Plenty of destroyers there. I'm blanking. But here's the part of her skills that I wished I got her and I didn't. What I was my regret came from. Enemies hit by Scylla's torpedoes take increased aircraft damage for a certain amount of time. And then when 6 planes have been shot down by your Vanguard, your CVs and CVLs take less damage. So she gets the Air Escort skill. Also, her all assault when she's a DD gun equipped, the shot count for it goes from 10 to 6. So I really missed the torpedoes making enemies take increased aircraft damage. It was quite useful for the extreme challenge mode bosses. I ended up using Tashkent Muse instead. So, I mean, that's just for someone shooting stuff for a little bit, which is fine. Not as useful when there's other stuff than one boss. So skill is definitely useful there, and just A abilities. But yeah, so with that, good AA, increased damage dealt for planes, pretty good. I don't see her getting used too much outside of that, unfortunately. But definitely for the later stages, when you need that AA, she's definitely doing well. And honestly, what I could do is I've been working on chapter 15, getting the 3 stars, because I just kind of blew through it to get to 15.4 and try Houston 2. I'm thinking she might be pretty good for the mobbing fleet I'm using, which has 3 carriers in it. Because she'll get that carrier escort up pretty quick. I mean, the fleet's doing fine. It doesn't need extra. But then the torpedoes helping out when carriers launch, and there's 3 of them, so someone's going to take advantage of it. Yeah, carrier heavy fleets, she is very useful for, and got a pretty nice design. Lots of skins. Been a lot of skins. Big fan of that. Someone is up top. I don't know why I started talking like Yoda. She had the ASMR come out somewhat recently, so yeah, she's pretty popular. So if you like her, you're probably gonna pull for her. But yeah, definitely has utility. I would definitely say her over Royal Oak, but Royal Oak is free. I forgot to say that. Royal Oak is the event shop ship. Royal Oak gets points there. Yeah, maybe throw in some pulls if you need a good AA ship for Scylla. Next up, we have the last ship in the gacha pool, Argus. She is a Royal Navy light aircraft carrier. That's why it's not very impressive, but she is a very old carrier, so makes sense. And she does get the extra EXP for your carriers, both CVs and CVLs, which I did miss her when I made that video about his easy trick to speed up PR farming. And someone did point out, hey, you forgot Argus. That's true. But Argus was limited at the time, and she still is. Everyone else should get either in the gacha pool or from farming events or just campaign stages. So yes, Argus. She got some support utility. It's just there's other people who are doing that same thing. I definitely could see her being pretty useful if you have some carriers you are kind of on the trying to catch up XP wise and might lose some HP while you're grinding. Useful there. Kind of just older sister helping out, I guess. So she is emergency heal for your carriers once per battle, and the threshold is pretty low, so I'm not a fan of. And then she has supporting wings, which Casablanca had, and I don't know if Independence got a retrofit before Argus came out. I can't remember. But basically, she buffs the aviation and reload of carriers in your fleet that she is in, and also the carriers in the fleet she is not in, but to a lesser degree. And these effects are weakened even further in OpSci. But yeah, she's pretty nice for that regards. Just what I do is I have Independence, is who I'm using, but if I didn't have Independence, I could use Argus instead. In my 4th fleet, which is just basically my buffers. And now we have a bunch of URs, it's getting very full of buffers. Before it was just like Independence and then 1. Now it's mostly URs, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it is what it is. So she gets a cross fleet barrage buffs, not barrage, sorry. And also decrease the loading time of her first airstrike, which is something Independence does not have. I don't believe Casablanca has either. There's some variation. And these do not stack with each other. So Casablanca's version, Argus's version, and Independence's versions, you can't use them all at the same time. Only one will apply. At least for that part of it. And then she gets additional torpedo strike when she launches an airstrike. Gets an increased chance of activating when you have other carriers in the fleet. And like I said, increased EXP gain for your carriers in the same fleet as her. So frontline usage and just going toe-to-toe on the higher levels, probably not very useful. But for helping your other carriers catch up in terms of EXP, and now that we have EXP books, obviously the EXP boosting skills aren't as useful. But if you want to grind their affinity and maybe do some PR grinding as well, there you go. She's has some utility there. So hopefully she's up for you while you're pulling for, let's say, Implacable or Scylla. But yeah, she's decent. Has some little bit of usage. Very niche. Not unless you like really like design, not one to go ham for. We do have a new event coming up. And lastly, we have the point accumulation ship, Hero, Royal Navy Destroyer. And I took a one look at her and I said, oh, this is probably going to be Royal Navy Bocce. and I decided I'm not going to mess with her. So yeah, I didn't I didn't grind for her. That's why I don't have the the event shop plane or her, because I did not grind the event. But she looking at her now, I see a niche use for her. And she seems pretty good at that niche use. Killing submarines. So when the battle starts and every 20 seconds she performs a special attack, there's 2 types she can use. And she buffs her own torpedo, firepower, and ASW. And the stat buffs decrease to 0 over 20 seconds, and then they get reapplied. Every 20 seconds, she has a sonar scan and reveals enemy subs, and she gets a shield for 10 seconds. And then she also decreases your Vanguard fleet's torpedo damage taken. I brought up a torpedo on the slide. That sucks. But yes, Hero, she kills submarines. She's got 226 ASW stat. That's quite good. She's got buffs for ASW. She gets a special ASW weapon or improves it. It's buff stats to AUX gear, which you can throw the hedgehog on her. So yeah, if you're gonna use her, she's gonna be killing submarines. That's what she's good for. Torpedo's not terrible at 379. AA's meh. Firepower's not very good. Evasion's decent. But yeah, killing submarines, that's her niche. And for skills, I basically covered them. There's not much else to say. Torpedo damage reduction is 10% for 5 seconds or 10 seconds. And then the shield, it doesn't say how many shells it blocks. It just says deploys shield. That lasts 10 seconds. But yeah, with her special attacks, she has Hero Knockout or Hero Slash. I'm wondering if Hero Knockout is just a traditional, like, barrage shells, and Slash is an actual slash attack. That'd be neat. You know, slash attacks are always useful for clearing out projectiles coming in. But yeah, you'll if you farm the event at all, you will get her. And when you get her, you want to kill some submarines, she's your gal, I guess. Moving on to the event shop. There's not going to be a event map slide just because there wasn't anything very interesting. Just farm the highest stage you can do. Event shop, got Royal Oak, and it's got spray center stuff, cognitive chips, cognitive arrays, gear upgrade parts, cats, oil, coins. The gear scan boxes for this event. It has the PR universal prints, however, they're for PR 5, so that dates how far back this event was. And also, I forgot, in this event, there is a dive bomber. Now, in terms of bombs, it looks comparable to the BTD destroyer. Got 2,000 pound bombs, but what it also seems quite good at is anti-air. It's got a pretty high anti-air capabilities for a dive bomber, so some use there. Not the fastest in the world. It's no Suisse, but you know, you're getting a lot of more anti-air capabilities, and you're getting a bigger bomb. That's pretty useful. But yeah, what to grab? Definitely the plane to help you out. Your universal prints for your PRs that are below 5 and 6. Remember, even if you have or below 5, well, you have below 6 anyway, but it doesn't count 6. Anyway, back on topic. Even if you have all your ship girls at Fate Sim 5 or level 30, dev level 30, like, oh, I don't have a use for these. You know, I got the event points. I'll just spend them. I don't know. I don't need the part pieces, but I can just buy all of them. What you can do is convert the universals into a ship girl you already have maxed out, and then analyze those and get points for the prototype shop. And so that helps you buy the UR gear that is normally in the Research Academy, but you can buy 1 copy in the shop. I mean, they're in the blueprint form. So it's 50 blueprints. So it's quite expensive, but that's a way to help yourself out with that. And yeah, so those are definitely worth a pickup in that regard. And also just helping your ship girls get their dev levels up, especially the backliners, because they really need those fleet tech bonuses because their reload sucks when they're not dev 30. And then milestone rewards, the point accumulation stuff, pretty standard stuff as always. It's a set list and some things rotate, like the ship girl reward, which in this case it's hero. Sometimes there's some gear added in or some stuff for the event if it's like a collab. But in this case, you just get your skill books, you get your coins, you get your universal prints, you get your UR bullion, you get your prints for doing retrofits, you get your augment gear stuff. Nothing too crazy. Just do the event and you'll get your free stuff. Pretty simple. So that was my summary of the light rerun of Revelations of Dust featuring Implacable, Royal Oak, Scylla, Hero, and Argus. Hopefully I didn't miss anyone. I don't think I did. Out of the ship girls, Implacable I still think is quite useful. Definitely has some utility. Scylla has some niche utility, as well as Argus, but Scylla more so than Argus. And yeah, so good luck. And be aware, I made a community post, but it was announced on either the Bilibili or Weibo, one of those two, that at the end of the month, so right after this event ends, we will get a new Eoyun event. So if you're thinking, okay, maybe I'm more interested in Eoyun ships than these Royal Navy ships, or you don't like the designs, like they could be useful. Let me see who's coming out. Then maybe hold off on your pulls until we get that announcement and figure that out. Actually, you know what? They might, if they do something at CarrierCon, which hasn't been announced, which is odd, they might show off some of the Eoyun ships at CarrierCon. Would be pretty neat. Give you an incentive to go to those kinds of things. But yes, so Implacable, definitely worth picking up. Scylla, have a look at. Everyone else kind of meh. It is an older event at this point, and there's been a lot of URs come out, a lot of new ship girls come out. Skills are getting longer and longer in terms of text. But yeah, so thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, share it out there. Helps the channel grow and helps people find the information. Take care, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.